Yo, what's going on, Geminites? I'm here with an updated library tour. A couple people have asked for an update, and I just kind of organized all my books, so I figured we'd go through like an in-depth library tour, just looking at all the books, talking about the books. No statues, no loft, no none of that. We're just going to look at the straight books this time, so let's go take a look, y'all. Alright guys, so what we're looking at basically is every single DC Absolute Edition, pretty much every Marvel and DC Omnibus, every Valiant book, every like IDW, Ninja Turtles and Transformers and G.I. Joes. The only actual omnibus that I'm missing is the DC Rebirth Extended Omnibus, which I passed on. I finally put my foot down because it basically was the same exact thing as the Rebirth Omnibus, but it had a couple more issues. So, let's start on the left here with the Absolutes. We have Absolute Justice League, which is Jim Lee art. Then we have the Loeb Sale Absolutes. Long Halloween, Haunted Night, Dark Victory. A lot of inspiration for the Dark Knight movies was drawn from those books. There's an omnibus coming out, so I'm considering selling the Absolutes, especially because one of them is a whale. Then we got Batman Incorporated by Grant Morrison. I still need to read that. So I've read the Loeb Sale books, haven't read Justice League. You got Absolute Court of Owls. I have read that. I've read the whole New 52 run. Absolute Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison, which I did read. Then we got Absolute Hush, which I've read. Absolute Dark Knight, I've read that. The Absolute All-Star Batman and Robin with Frank Miller and Jim Lee, I read. Absolute Batman Year One, I've read. It's actually just 4 issues. There's 2 books in there. It just has 2 different type of paper stock. All right. Anyway, you got the Superman Batman. That's pre New 52 era. Ed McGuinness, Jeff Loeb, Michael Turner. I read those books. The All Star Superman I've read. It's considered one of the best Superman runs. You know, maybe only 10 issues or so. Absolute Superman for Tomorrow. Azzarello and Lee and Williams. I haven't read that. I heard it's not really good, actually. Absolute Luther and Joker. I have not read. It's 2 books in there. I haven't never really heard anything about it. Then you got Absolute Identity Crisis, which I read and did a recent reads on. Absolute Blackest Night and Sinestro Corps. So a lot of these books started in alphabetical order, or like they were together, but as new books come in and I have to start rearranging stuff, like the other Green Lantern Rebirth is like now down here. Anyway, I've read that whole Jeff Johns run. I'm also considering selling those 3 Green Lantern Absolutes because I have the 3 omnibus. Green Lantern, Green Arrow. That's the Bronze Age stuff. I haven't read that book yet. Absolute Green Arrow by Kevin Smith. Haven't read. This is the Absolute Superheroes, which is Alex Ross. Kind of like short stories. That's the first printing. They ended up coming out with a reprint. But I have read that. Absolute New Frontier. Have not read. Absolute Justice by Alex Ross. I have not read. But Kingdom Come. I've read that one. Then we have Avengers vs. JLA. Haven't read that. That's George Perez stuff. The 3 Crisis books I've read. Absolute Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, and Final Crisis. Then I've got the 3 League of Extraordinary Gentlemen books. Haven't read any of those. Absolute V for Vendetta. I have not read. I haven't even seen the movie. Alright. Coming by over here. We got Absolute Ronin. Haven't read. Absolute Watchmen. I've read that. The Wonder Woman New 52 stuff. Haven't read. The 3 Promethea books. I've read it. I did a recent reads on it if you want to check that out. Absolute Top 10 by Alan Moore. Heard great things. Haven't gotten to it yet. Same with Transmetropolitan. The Boys by Garth Ennis I have read before I started the channel. I actually powered through the 6 deluxe editions or whatever definitive editions. I think I'm going to do a segment called Not So Recent Reads and review those books for y'all because I really like that story and I've read it, so I'm probably going to do that. The Walking Dead, they're called Omnibus, but they're really absolute formats. The 7 volumes, that's every one that's been released so far. Pretty sure I might be caught up. I think I might have to read some issues from volume 7. Then you have Absolute Death with Absolute Sandman Overture and 1 through 5. I've read all of them except for Overture, which is the new one that came out. It's the prequel. I did a recent reads on that, so check that out. Man, The Invincible Complete Library Edition. So that's not the full run, and they've discontinued the library editions, so you'd have to buy the oversized hardcovers to complete it. And I think that's kind of what's stopped me from getting started into reading that run, but that's another Kirkman book, his first book on Image, I believe. It's a superhero type book. Absolute Authority, I haven't read those, but I know that it's part of the Wildstorm imprint, kind of with Planetary and all those other Warren Ellis books. And we got Absolute Danger Girl, J. Scott Campbell, early work, haven't read that. Absolute Planetary, I read the Omnibus of Planetary, I did a recent reads. Check it out. Same with Preacher. I've read all 3 of them. That and Sandman are definitely the nicest absolutes. I did a recent reads on that if you want to get a little review and see the books in more detail. Absolute Why the Last Man is kind of just like The Boys in the sense that I read it prior to starting the channel, and I think I'll revisit it to do a recent reads on it, or a not so recent reads. Absolute Wildcats by Jim Lee. One of the more recent absolutes. Haven't read that. Then you have the 6 Ultimate Collection Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the original run, the Mirage run. Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird. And then the 5 pizza boxes, the Color Classics, are those same issues but in color. Then we've got the 7 IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Deluxe Editions. I've read 1 through 6. So has Manimal. We both need to read 7, and we'll do a recent reads on it. He did a recent reads on all the other 6 volumes if you want to go check out his thoughts. Then I just have a little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo hardcover. Haven't really looked into that. Then we get into the G.I. Joe Deluxe Editions. There's volume 1 through 4. 1 through 7. Then Transformers vs. G.I. Joe. Then Transformers Phase 1 and Phase 2. That's every deluxe edition they've released. Haven't read any of those, and that's going to be our next read-through. Right now we're finishing our Valiant read-through, which this is every Valiant deluxe edition that's been released. We are more than 2/3 of the way through. We're almost done. We actually only have, I'm reading Rai right now. And then we just have to read like Eternal Warrior, Ninjak and Bloodshot Reborn, Volume 2, and 4001 AD, and then Divinity. So we've been releasing little videos. We broke them down into 3 acts based on this reading order that we found. So we read all the Valiant books. We did a prequel video, 3 parts for Act 1, 2 parts for Act 2, and we're going to have 2 parts for Act 3. And we would have read and reviewed the whole Valiant Deluxe Edition, man. The whole universe. All right, moving up over here. We have the Crimson, Complete Crimson, which is like an absolute. It's a Humberto Ramos art. Not familiar with the run. I think Manimal wants to read it for one of his recent reads next. Then we got the Hellboy Library Editions, Volume 1 through 6, plus Hellboy in Hell, plus the Art of Hellboy, which I have read all of those. It was actually my first recent reads. We have a little Mike Mignola Hellboy Weird Tales book I haven't read. Then we have the BPRD and Ape Sapien stuff, which I haven't read any of that. I really just need to crush that whole cube and read all those books. But you got Plague of Frogs 1 through 4, Hell on Earth 1 and 2, 1946 through 1948, Ape Sapien 1 and 2, and The Drowning with Other Stories. Then we got The Goon. I always want to jump into this. I mean, I guess it's a little daunting because there's 5 big books, but I haven't read it yet, and I want to jump into it. Big Damn Sin City, haven't read. Deadly Class, I haven't even cracked that, but I might read that next, man. People are telling me I should read it. It's Rick Remender. It's opted for a show or a movie or some shit. Anyway, jumping into some Image stuff. East of West, haven't read. Saga, I've read the first volume. Nailbiter, haven't touched. Outcast, I've read. Chew, I haven't touched. And then that Claws book, I still haven't touched that either. On the bottom, Colossal Conan, haven't rushed. I'm intimidated as hell by that book. Fear Agent, Volume 1 and 2. Descender, Tokyo Ghost. Some Youngblood hardcover I bought, which is signed by Liefeld. Haven't read any of those. The Fantagraphics Usagi Yojimbo box set. I've read both of those books. I really enjoyed it. And I'm just... again, intimidated to jump into the Usagi run 1 through 7 of Saga, Usagi Yojimbo Saga, and Legends. But I really want to read them, man. I liked the first 2 books. It's just like I said, man, there's like 8 big, pretty thick books to get through. I got to do it. Another Remender book that I don't hear much about, Low, haven't read. And then we got all the Brubaker Image books that I own. Criminal I've read, but I haven't checked out Velvet, Fatale, or The Fade Out. Irredeemable is one that I want to jump into. Mark Waid. I hear it's a really good book. It gets a lot of good recommendations, so I just need to kind of go on and do that. Lock and Key. I've read those. I really enjoyed Lock and Key. I tried to get my daughter to read it. She really couldn't get into it, and I was surprised because it seemed like it was something that's up her alley. Black Science, haven't read. And then, of course, the 4 Spawn Deluxe Editions, which I have read the Spawn run. I just never went and reread it through the Deluxe Editions. I also do own Paper Girls, which I usually put somewhere in here, but I do have my daughter reading that right now, based on Iman's recommendation. All right, y'all. Now on to the Omnibus. That's a long wall of omnibi. That's an impressive wall. So like I said, they're pretty much in alphabetical order, except for like sometimes you got to rearrange books like Tetris to make them fit up in here, And some people kind of say, how do you have Avengers Volume 1 and 2 split like that? Doesn't that bother you? It used to. It used to bother me when, like, all the Fantastic Four books weren't on the same cube. But I realized, when a new A book comes in and I put it up here, it's going to push everything down anyway. So I don't really get too attached to that. And that's why I don't really care if something is not exactly in alphabetical order. So here we go. Acts of Vengeance and the crossovers. Alias for the Marvel Max. I've read all those 3 books. Alpha Flight by John Byrne. Have not read. It doesn't really seem too interesting, but I have it anyway. A lot of these books I bought just because I'm a collector and, it completes the collection. And I could read it one day if I want to. So, whatever. Amazing Fantasy. I've only read issue 15, which is Spider-Man's first appearance. Annihilation and Conquest. I've read them both. We didn't really do a recent reads, but we did a whole live show dedicated to it back when we had themed live shows. Atlantis Attacks I never even cracked. I haven't really read any of these Avengers books, man. The 3 volumes from the Silver Age, John Byrne's run, the West Coast Avengers, George Perez run, The Crossing, the New Avengers, Ultimate Avengers, Young Avengers. I've read some of Uncanny Avengers in floppies, but never in the book. I did read Avengers by Hickman Volume 1, and I really want to get started on Volume 2. Captain America, I did not read the Golden Age or the Silver Age volumes, or the Jack Kirby volume, the 90s volume. The only Captain America I read was the first 3 from the Brubaker run, which was Captain America Volume 1, The Death of Captain America, and Captain America Lives. And I was kind of like Captain America'd out, so I haven't gotten to the trial or the Return of the Winter Soldier books. Captain Britain, still haven't read. Carnage, I've read all those books, just never in the omnibus, but I used to have them all, actually, in singles. Got Dark Tower Gunslinger and Dark Tower by Stephen King. I haven't read those. Silver Age Daredevil, haven't read. But I have read the Frank Miller and Companion, the Bendis and Brubaker Daredevil runs. Have not read Shadowland or the Mark Waid runs, though. All right, on to Deadpool. We have Deadpool by Joe Kelly, which I've read. Deadpool Classic, which is his earlier appearances. And Deadpool Beginnings. I forget which one's which. I think I got them out of order. I probably just rearranged them. But I read all three of those books. I believe I did. I think actually Classics is volume 2 from the Joe Kelly, but I haven't read that. I read Beginnings, which is his X-Force stuff, and then Deadpool and the X-Force continues that. So it's confusing. Like, I'm pretty sure this is Deadpool by Joe Kelly is followed by Deadpool Classic. Then Deadpool Beginnings is followed by Deadpool and X-Force. But they just retitle them and stuff, man. Deadpool and Cable, Deadpool and Co. I haven't read those. The 3 Minibus, which collects a bunch of his miniseries. I've read like the first 2 volumes, I believe. Deadpool by Poston and Dugan, and then the Deadpool Complete Collection by Mark Waid, Volume 1 and 2. Haven't read them. Devil Dinosaur, never read that. Doctor Strange by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, I did read, but I have not read The Sorcerer Supreme, Volume 1 and 2. Elektra, man, by Frank Miller, was the first omnibus that I gave up on. Well, actually, not true. There's another one, but I hated that book, sorry. The Eternals, Evolutionary War, haven't read. And then we got all the Fantastic Four books, the first 3 volumes by Stan Lee, the 2 volumes by John Byrne, the 2 volumes by Hickman, and the Fraction. Mark Fraction? I read the Hickman books, which I really enjoyed. And the Stan Lee books, I need to really just sit down and read them through. I'm pretty sure, I've read like the first 10 issues probably here and there throughout time. But all right, so next up, we got Ghost Rider by Jason Aaron, which I have read. I did a recent reads on it. We have the 4 Guardians of the Galaxy books, which are the solo classics, the 90s Jim Valentino stuff, the Abnett Lanning stuff, which is like the War of Kings stuff, and then the Bendis stuff. I read the Abnett run when I read War of Kings. Howard the Duck, still sealed. Big surprise. Incredible Hulk Volume 1. I haven't read it, but I have read Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. I highly recommend them. The Immortal Iron Fist. I've read it. I should do a not-so-recent reads on it. It was good. Infinity Gauntlet. Obviously, I read that. The 2 Iron Man Silver Age books. Then the David Michelinie Iron Man. The Kurt Busiek Iron Man. I haven't read any of that. John Carter, Warlord of Mars. Didn't read yet. Loki's Omnibus, Man-Thing. Didn't read them. This Marvel 75 Years is just like a compilation book, which double dips every single issue that's in there. Marvel Golden Age Omnibus. Still yet to crack that thing. Well, I cracked it, but I never read it. Marvel First the 90s, another compilation book. And then you have these Marvel Universe by Chris Claremont, by John Byrne. I haven't gotten into those. Marvel Zombies, I have read. And then you have the Ultimate Marvel, which is another Ultimate Universe compilation book. And then you got the Mighty Thor 1 through 3. Thor by Straczynski, Thor by Simonson, and Thor Heroes Reborn. I haven't read any of those Thor books. Hawkeye by Matt Fraction, that's what it was. Yeah, I gotta read that, man. Somebody requested it too for a recent read. The Monsters Omnibus are like pre-hero Stan Lee, timely, I think, or early Marvel stuff. Yeah, it's like Tales to Astonish before Iron Man and Ant-Man and stuff like that, Tales of Suspense and all that. You got the Marvel Now compilation. Miss Marvel I have read. New Warriors I haven't. The Muppet Babies and the Muppets and Oz, my 3 embarrassing books. Although I think Oz gets a little bit of a pass. I mean, it's Scotty Young. I guess it's supposed to be okay. But, you know, those are when I went over the edge. All right, The Punisher by Garth Ennis. I did read that. That's the Marvel Knights run. I have a recent reads out on that if you want to check it out. See, this is where it gets a little out of order, right? So then you got Punisher Back to the War, which is his first appearances and early stuff. Punisher by Remender. Haven't read any of those. And then you have Punisher Max by Garth Ennis, both volumes. And then Punisher Max by Jason Aaron. So I think the Max Ennis runs are going to be next up for me to read. Secret Invasion Omnibus, haven't read. Secret Warriors I did read by Jonathan Hickman. I have a recent reads on that. So check it out. Secret Wars 1 and 2 I've read in the past before the Omnibus. Man, so these were also kind of books that I kind of just got because they're Marvel Omnibus. I got is what happened. But I don't know when I'm ever going to read Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu. There's 4 freaking volumes. Then it spills over into Deadly Hands of Kung Fu 1 and 2. I don't know, y'all. Don't expect a recent reads anytime soon. Got The Runaways, and then you got S.H.I.E.L.D., which I haven't read, but I have read Silver Surfer, and I have a recent reads out on that if you want to check out that video. Amazing Spider-Man Volumes 1 through 3 from the Stan Lee, Silver Age, which I've read. Spider-Man by Roger Stern, I've read a lot of that. Hobgoblin stuff. The Amazing Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane, then Spider-Man by McFarlane, and then you have Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Eric Larson, plus the 2 volumes from the Clone Saga. I've read all those. Spider-Man has always been like my favorite character, so those I've read. Continuing on with the Spider-Man, we have Untold Tales of Spider-Man, the Ultimate Miles Morales Spider-Man, Tangled Web, Ultimate Spider-Man, Death of Ultimate Spider-Man, Superior Foes. I've read all those, I think, except for all of the Untold Tales. That kind of like takes place in the Silver Age, but it was made in the 90s. Like it was a modernized, kind of like X-Men Classics, I would think. Squadron Supreme, and then the little volume, the original one, which the big one now, double dips. It has the whole thing in there. Stephen King, The Stand, haven't read it. The original Marvel Star Wars, then the UK collection, Droids and Ewoks, haven't read any of those. But the more modern Star Wars Darth Vader Omni I read, and I did a recent reads on it. Tomb of Dracula 1 through 3, and the Ultimates, haven't read those. The Van Omnibus, Manimal just did a recent reads on it if you want to check it out. I've read all those in trade paperbacks about a year ago, and I recently sold all the trades. Then you got the Road to War of Kings, and Realm of Kings Omnis. I've read all those. Big Marvel cosmic story that follows up from Annihilation. You got Werewolf by Night, Women of Marvel, haven't read them. Wolverine Volume 1, which is a compilation book, all his like earlier stuff, plus his Weapon X stuff, which I have read. Wolverine and Wolverine Goes to Hell by Jason Aaron. Well, it's the whole Jason Aaron trilogy, then Wolverine and the X-Men. I've read all 3 of them, and I have recent reads up for the first 2, if you want to check that out. Wolverine by Mark Millar, which is mostly Old Man Logan in there, which I've read. I got to check out the other story that's in there, though. Weapon X The Return, haven't checked it out, but I have read X-Force, which is the 90s run, and Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender, which is one of my favorite books. Then we have, I've read all these, man. The X-Men Silver Age stuff by Stan Lee. Then you have the Claremont Uncanny stuff, the X-Men Classics, which expands on that run. X-Men The Dark Phoenix Saga, which double dips that whole run. Then you've got the Adjectiveless X-Men, the Chris Claremont, Jim Lee stuff. Age of Apocalypse and the Companion. So Manimal's actually rereading that as like his favorite run, and he's going to do a recent reads on that. I did a recent reads on X-Men Avengers Onslaught and X-Men Legacy Legion, so check those out. Then we have the newly released X-Men Revolution by Chris Claremont. Haven't read that. New X-Men and Astonishing. I've done recent reads videos on both of those if you want to peep it out. Ecstatic, man, I can't get into that all red artwork, man. I don't know, but people love that run. Now we're getting into the DC Omnis. So we have Animal Man by Grant Morrison, which I loved. I got to do a not so recent on that because I really enjoyed it. Batman by Neil Adams Omnibus. Never read that. Bronze Age stuff. But I have read all 3 Nightfall Omnibus, and I did a recent reads. And I still need to check out Batman by Grant Morrison Volume 1, Batman and Robin, Batman 66, Doom Patrol, and the 2 Jack Kirby Omnibus, the Commandi and the Fourth World. In the corner, it's hard to see, but Brightest Day Omnibus I have read, along with the 3 Green Lantern Omnis by Jeff Johns. One of the best DC runs you're going to ever read. Unfortunately, the Flash Omnis by Jeff Johns, I gave up on the first thin one, man. I just couldn't get into that book. I got to try to revisit it someday. And you got the Flash by Manipal, haven't read. Gotham Central, Grayson, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, Invisibles, Hawkman. I haven't read any of those books. I did read the Infinite Crisis Omnibus. That's the new printing. I actually did a giveaway for the first print. And then all these Omnis I haven't read, bro. I haven't read DC 1 Million, the 52, the new 52, the Rebirth, the Future's End, the Zero, the DC Villains, the JSA volumes, Just Imagine, which is a Stan Lee DC book, the Justice League International and Detroit era. But these 2 I really want to get into like soon, man. I want to read the Orion Omnibus and the Dark Side War Saga. Those sound interesting. Planetary Omni I have read. Superman, the Exile, and Other Stories Omni I have not read those, but I definitely read the Death and Return of Superman. I haven't read any of the rest of these Omnis. The Copper Age New Teen Titans, the Teen Titans by Jeff Johns, the Wonder Woman volumes by Perez, and all these Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age DC books really got me messed up, man. They like keep coming out with more. I don't know, that they're a space killer. So I kind of just recently put them on top of this Calyx, man, just to kind of get out of the way. But I guess we could go over them. There's 5 volumes of Batman, Golden Age. There are 5 Superman, 2 Wonder Woman, and then for Silver Age you have 2 Supergirl volumes, 2 Justice League, Silver Age, 2 Justice League, Bronze Age. Then you got the Bronze Age Batgirl, Brave and the Bold, House of Secrets, Teen Titans, Swamp Thing. More Silver Age, World's Finest, Green Lantern 1 and 2, Flash 1 through 3, Suicide Squad, Teen Titans, Green Arrow Golden Age, Adam Strange, Doom Patrol, Legion of Superheroes. And then just some random stuff. So right here is where I keep all my OHCs, and I kind of started to double them up because I'm running out of space. But here goes, the Inferno, 3 Inferno books, Fall of the Mutants, Fatal Attractions. Back there we have a lot of event hardcovers. So this is all really like X-Men hardcovers, OHCs, and event books. Plus I have some Spider-Man stuff that hasn't been printed in Omnibus, like Back in Black, Spider Island, Craven's Last Hunt, Superior Spider-Man, and the current Amazing Spider-Man Worldwide. Spider-Man and Deadpool, Spider-Gwen, I think I have the 2 volumes back there. And I snuck in a Moon Knight. Inside the desk, man, I got Batman the Dark Knight Master Race, Starman Omnibus 1 through 6, iZombie, The Vertigo House of Secrets, Sweet Tooth, Sweet Tooth by Jeff Lemire. Then we got Multiversity, The Button, Deadman, Scalped, Marvel Generations, Batman Year 2, The Darkness Compendiums, Fight Club 2, Bone, The Sleeper, Powers, and Bendis Crime Noir, plus Justice League Power Rangers. I always forget those, man. I really got to read Scalped, Sweet Tooth. I got to read all of them, actually. So at the top, man, I kind of rearrange this stuff every now and then, but right now I have my box sets and miscellaneous crap that I can't really fit anywhere, man. Infinity Gauntlet Box Set. These are the 4 old school Valiant Omnis with the 6 deluxe editions, Ex Machina. These are the 3 Lunar Brothers Absolutes, the Girls, the Sword, and Ultra 7 Days. Civil War box set. My Power Ranger trades with the deluxe edition. Rachel Rising. My Predator, Terminator, Alien, Prometheus books. And the paperbacks. Secret Wars box set. My Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trades. And then the Akira box set. This Fatal Attractions is actually a dupe that somebody sent us that we're going to do a giveaway for. And then lastly, up here, I still do have a couple of trades. Some new stuff that I get, like Superman Blue, Doom 2099, Spider-Girl. And then a lot of my Spider-Man, trades, like Complete Alien Costume Saga, Venom by Remender, Venom Space Knight, Spider-Man 2099, new and old. A lot of Carnage and Venom trades, Mortal Kombat trades, the new Venom run. So, some other 2099 X-Men, and I gotta really organize that. I still got Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Turtles cartoons, man. But that's my little trades area. Maybe I'll put them on top of the Calyx with the box sets. Alright, y'all, well, that is all for the updated library tour. It's funny going through all these books. A lot of them I can say now that I've read compared to when I first started this channel. And the channel really has given me a lot of reason to read and do reviews on them. So I really, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful I was able to get through a lot of these books. Now that I think about it, I didn't say what I read or haven't read on top or in the small Calyx. I read a lot of them. Anyway, man, I'm down for any questions about any of the books. Hit me up. Drop me a like on the way out. Drop me a comment. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tours, for reviews on these books, for haul updates and what's coming out, previews, and things like that, man. So, thanks for watching. Stay minty. Peace.